We'll definitely see what we can do.
Sing and dance.
All right, at 6 o'clock, I will call to order the meeting of the Situate Village Board. Roll call.
Cox,
Here.
Berto. Here. Shampoo.
Here.
Right. You're muted, Sarah. Can you hear us?
Oh, yep, here.
Roscoe and Warner are excused.
Okay. Can I get an approval of the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Berto, second by Cox. All those in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Approval of the minutes from February 20th, 2024.
I would like to make a correction on page 13. I
Go
will
ahead.
wait until Heidi gets back to her computer.
I'm listening.
Line 12, ice rink planning update, at the last sentence, she shared that group has determined that the ice rink will not be relocated to the Loggerquist property that the village purchased. That's what the discussion was about.
Any other additions, subtractions, deletions?
No question, though, under Tourism Zone Commission, it says Schmelzer noted that she will forward the specific income data associated with that report as she is able. Again. Did
Yeah,
I
it
get
came
that?
from me. Julie gave it to me and I forwarded it on to you.
Okay,
It was just a little snippet.
oh, not a big, okay,
It was just a little picture.
all right.
Okay,
One more thing, page 16. Line 28, we had amended the agenda and it, instead of manager performance, it should state administrator.
village administrator.
That's all.
Okay,
We'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second,
all those in favor?
aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. That was Cox and Berto.
Yep.
Okay, comments, correspondence, and concerns from the public. This is different this month. I am putting a 3-minute non-transferable limit on speaking. We've had a little bit of issues with meetings running a little long, so I wanted to put that out there. Anybody in the public want to speak? Anybody on Zoom?
I want more toilet paper in outhouses.
Okay, can you do that?
Here, 3 minutes was fantastic.
On to County Supervisor Report by Dave
How
Lino.
about,
Oh, I'm sorry. With the
There
packet.
was one item of correspondence in the packet, which was notification from the DNR about pier work by the Crane property.
right, so I had some questions about that. It talks about, submitting general comments within 30 days after the date this notice is published on the department's website. Or postmarked within 20 days, blah, blah, blah. Does the village have any opinion?
You know, we sent some comments,
And are we still within the deadline? Because this was received March 18th, but I don't know when it was posted to the website.
yeah, we gave comments to. Trying to think who we gave comments to, I'll check on that and make sure.
Because I know they had some other pier out there in the past that was on the village's property,
Yeah, they had a smaller one, like
Right.
a portable one,
portable
that they
one.
moved back and forth, so it's not that one that they're talking about. He's
Right,
running,
this is like more permanent.
yeah. I'll check and see, I think it gotta give the comments to Skylar. On it, but I'll check on that.
Okay.
So you're saying you gave that to Skylar for comment, or we already have comments that we want to make?
I have to check on it. I remember being asked about it and saying I do not think that we would support it. Because there was a pier out there at one time. We would not support another one going out there. for private use. Based on the way our codes are written.
Okay.
But I'll follow.
And then we've either got. Either it's dated the 29th February, but obviously we got it on the 7th, so I don't, we should make sure we get that. And then we have clarification on when the actual clock started on it. Okay. That was all the public correspondence we had on today.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, Dave.
I met with the administrative committee today. The board doesn't meet till next week because of scheduling issues with the election coming up and then having to redo all the rules of order. So the admin committee today spent most of the time doing some budget carry forwards, which you're familiar with. But also we review and revise the rules of order and the duties of county board subunits and committees. And that took us about an hour to go through and do that sort of thing. And that'll be forwarded on to the new board. And that's all I have as far as that report. But I do want to say this will be my last meeting with you as the county board chair or as a county board supervisor for the Village of Sister Bay. I have certainly enjoyed my time and being able to give you the little updates on what the county is doing and support the village in the past as I have always tried to. And so I just want to say thank you and I appreciate you tolerating me over all these years.
Thanks, Dave.
Thanks, Dave.
I appreciate all your service and advice and wisdom over the years, Dave.
Thank you.
Okay, any questions for Dave? Okay. Dave, what happens if you get the write-in vote? Okay. On to 7 ordinances. Julie?
So this first one is recreating the telecommunications regulations. This is a section we've always had in our zoning code. It was outdated. There was a better model, so we pretty much stripped out the old section and recreated it. If you remember, we had a moratorium on this to give us 6 months to work on it, and this is the final product.
We've seen this through plan commission quite a few times. This has happened, I think it went back 3 or 4 times. So I'm pretty familiar with it, everything plan is, but if you have any questions, Don or Sarah?
No, I don't have any questions too. I mean, it's long. I sometimes appreciate just a quick comment of anything significant that might have, been altered or changed, but other than that, it's I didn't see anything that jumped out when reading through it.
I'll make a motion to approve as presented.
Motion by Bertle, second by Cox. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I,
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Amend chapter 18 on business regulation regarding advertising for short-term rentals.
Sure, this is one that came before the board before. This is an amendment to chapter 18. And when the board reviewed it, they just asked for some clarifying language on how you treat somebody who's been licensed before. So that was put in here, as you can see in red. So
moved.
Motion by Bertle. All second by Bell. Further discussion?
were these approved or were these reviewed at Plan Commission or anywhere else? Or are these coming straight to board, just out of curiosity?
if I remember it, this one, the
Chapter 18 doesn't go to plan first, does it?
it doesn't, but the plan commission had talked about it briefly and then made a recommendation to the board. So it went to our last board meeting.
Hmm.
And they discussed it at that time and made some revisions, so it's coming back with the cleaned up language.
Okay,
All right.
And the language was so that people that had a previous license could have this.
That's correct.
Yeah.
You're honoring somebody who's already had a license
Right.
along with that.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
hey,
Opposed? Motion carries. On to amend, clarify how STR parking stalls are counted.
So this is a cleanup amendment. Basically, last year we made this amendment, but the question came up, how do you count the stalls? So if you're allowed 4 stalls, does that include the 2 in the garage? Is that 4 outside, or how is that handled? So this clarifies how you're counting the 4 stalls. Basically saying if you have garage stalls and you're making them available for use for vehicles, then they count towards 2 of the 4. Or 1 of the 4.
But if you're not making them available, you have that clear, then they don't. count towards it.
Why would those count towards them?
If they're being used as parking stalls, then they would be a parking stall. So some of the short-term rental owners had concerns about this, but what it came down to is if you do not open that up to the renters, it doesn't count.
Yeah, but if you do open it up, aren't those bonus? Like, don't we really care about the ones in the parking lot or in the driveway? If you're opening up your garage stalls, I would say that's great. That takes cars out of the driveway. I just don't understand why those would count towards the total number, unless I'm totally missing something.
So you can have a maximum of 4 cars. We decided that last year. So if you're gonna let people park in the garage, that means 2 of the 4 can park in the garage. Instead of saying all 4 have to be outside. Some people can't get 4 stalls outside. Maybe the driveways aren't long enough. It was just one of those areas where we kept getting questions on it. And I can predict or think I know what the board wanted, and I wanted it cleaned up. I wanted it very clear how you count them and where they're counted.
So this is not about the number of stalls, this is
Got it.
just how we're counting. So there's, the
Okay.
number was set at 4 stalls, it's just a matter of if you make the parking available inside the garage, it counts. If you don't, what you have to do if it's not gonna be counted is you put that in your house rules.
And just a question, is there an exception to this?
If you go over 4 spots, you have to go to the plan commission for. It's not even a conditional use, you just have to go in front of the plan commission.
Does it say that?
Yeah, the rules say if you want more rooms than allowed or more parking stalls than allowed, you go before the planning commission.
Is it like a 2/3 vote?
I don't even think it was a 2/3 vote, if I remember right, but it gave somebody an opportunity to get a review instead of a hard no.
Okay. There,
So moved.
motion by Berto,
Second.
second by Chantal. All those in favor?
No.
Aye. Opposed? No. Motion carries. On to clarify language regarding driveways allowed at STRs. Keep in mind that this is also a very specific ordinance. This pertains to not whether you can have the driveway, but how you bring that driveway into compliance.
Okay, Julie had sent me an email. I'm gonna very badly draw on the board. Okay. House, garage. Driveway. So what we had said at Plan Commission. That wherever the right of way was. You needed to remove the driveway. So this was the right of way, but then. If somebody didn't want to remove the entirety of the driveway, that then from the right of way, 5 more feet. Would have to be cleared of the asphalt, cement, gravel, whatever it was, and that's where the 3 trees are planted. So that's kind of the wording that we need to get to. Not what's in our packet. So I just kind of came up from, in the red, fill and gravel shall be removed from the right of way or front lot line 5 feet farther into the property, and within that 5 feet, 3 trees at least 4 feet in height, et cetera, et cetera.
Again, this is a cleanup because we say non-conforming driveways have to be removed. But we don't say what is compliance. People are saying, well, what part of the driveway has to be removed? Well, clearly anything in the road right of way, because that's our area. So this was, again, a cleanup amendment to define what compliance is deemed.
So sometimes driveways that are like this on busier roads are safer. Because, and they pass zoning, they pass planning, when the house was planned, we as a village said, that's okay. Those driveways are fine.
Not necessarily.
So for all of those that in the village that are in violation, they did get approval for that. So if they haven't gotten approval, and we didn't approve it, have they been being fined all the time?
There are some things that are just grandfathered that have been there. I'm sure some at the time may have been approved, and that would be fine for it to go on and be grandfathered in eternity.
Sure. So let's say this is 42, right? And you come in here, and then when you go out, your nose first and off you go. Otherwise, cut that out and then backing out into the road, which happens a lot in busy roads. So I don't understand, it's a safety issue. If it works, why make it part of the STR
Because
issue?
the-
Because you have a chance to fix something that we couldn't fix when, if a homeowner who lived here year round had.
Right,
It's
you
a-
always, I brought it up, I can't remember at what meeting. You always want to try to fix legal non-conforming. And currently, the zoning code says that in certain districts, you can only have one driveway. And the example that I brought up is when the sign ordinance was changed decades ago, the village no longer wanted internally lit signs. But anybody who had an old sign was grandfathered. But as each business would change hands, they wanted a new sign, they had to come up with a different design because they could not do an internally lit one. And Bay Lake Bank, where NWTC is now, they were the last internally lit sign in the village. So now everybody is in compliance, and you always want to move for compliance with your current code.
Do we have an example, like how many properties would be impacted by this? I'm like trying to understand, is this one house? This
Hold
multiple
on, I
house?
just want to go back to what I started out with here. This is not about that ordinance. This is about the compliance portion of it. We're not talking about the larger ordinance here. We're just talking about the portion of it that says this is how you detach the road. If we don't like that ordinance, that's beyond the scope of this conversation.
I feel like I'm allowed to understand though how many homes this impacts. Am I not?
Okay.
We've had 2
I think we had 2 come before the planning
Plan-
commission.
plan commissions so far.
We have
That we-
not been through and looked at every single lot in the village. One, we don't know. I mean, you'd have to look at every single lot, how many have 2 driveways, you'd have to research their files. Did they predate zoning or are they violations? So far, everything we have, I believe so far, everyone we've looked at, the driveway was actually a violation. It was put in after zoning without a permit at some point. And so last year we decided, okay, if it's in violation, they've got to fix it. They've got to bring it into compliance is what we said. But we never took it to that next level of saying, what is compliance? And that's what this is defining. Saying you have to move it from the right of way, and if you want to keep it, if you want to keep the remainder of it, this is how you keep the remainder of it.
It's taking ambiguity out for staff to enforce.
Because in this situation, people are saying, do I have to remove it back to here? You know, on this one, they're like, do I have to pull it back all the way here?
It's one driveway. You keep saying two driveways.
Well, it's
It's one driveway. There's two
Doesn't mean
entrances,
a driveway.
but it's one drive.
2 access points.
Right. Yeah. And there are a lot of houses that I've seen with 2 access points for a lot of reasons. It might be safety, it might not be, it might be convenience, it might be for whatever reason. And I'm just surprised if all of them were put in without getting any kind of permit from the village at some point, so. I'm really surprised to hear that would happen, because it's not a small undertaking to have someone come in and dig up and put in a driveway. It typically takes, approval, so. I don't, I just don't, this one, I just don't see the necessity of, but, you know.
It makes it easy for staff to point to something that's very specific. And it's also then for the property owner to understand what they would have to do, what they can do, what they can't do.
Based on what we want them to do or not do. Not.
Based on the-
Yeah, so it's not,
Code.
whether it makes it easy for staff, we can make it even easier for staff by not having that as part of something that they have to or not have to do. That would also be true.
But that's already in the ordinance.
And has been for many, many years,
So there's-
before short term.
Right.
So that's why I'm just curious how there could be so many of these, if it's been in there for so many years. And been accepted, because we haven't ever asked the current homeowner who lives here year round to change it, as far as I know. Or do we send them letters saying, could you please remove one of those access points and plant some trees in front of it? Like, do we do that? Probably not. It's only when they sell their house to the new person to say, oh, by the way, if you want to buy this house, you have to change it.
No.
Oh, if you want to buy the house and use it for an STR, you have to change it.
Right.
Well, see, then that's a problem. Because if they buy the house and the house isn't to ordinance or code, they should know that coming in.
I agree, Don, and I always encourage people, before you buy something, have us look at it to see what's wrong with it. And I actually had a call today where a guy is like, can you look at the property and tell me what's wrong with it before I buy it? So they know the nonconformities or the violations that are out there.
I mean,
That
if
doesn't always
you
happen.
if you want staff to go through drive up and down all the roads and make a list and then go through the property files and
I don't, but it's bothering somebody enough to put it in an ordinance to change it when people buy it for a certain reason, so. Otherwise, it wouldn't be in there. I don't want staff to do something that they should have to do, you know, work overtime to do. No. But it obviously bothers some people enough to where it was written in an ordinance, so.
It was written and approved by us in the past,
Well,
so
it may, well, not by some of us, that, you know, obviously, because she said many years ago, that's been the ordinance, so. I would assume people who were on the board many, many years ago did this, so that's fine. That's fine, we've done things when we've been on the board.
Yeah.
If things change, I understand, but anyway. Doesn't matter, it's in there and it's gonna be voted on and it'll be fine, so.
I guess I still come down to, and I understand your point there, trying to understand the scope of what the impact is. I get that. That's absolutely a fair question. I'm looking at this narrowly on here. Personally, I really wonder about some of these driveways that were put in between the time zoning started and the first time that we had aerial photography in 1992. And you're talking about like the 70s through the early 90s. I understand your point that they were there. The village has known about them for that long. At some point, they're accepted. And at the same point, I understand what you're saying, Denise, is we have a non-conforming use and we want to get rid of that non-conforming use. So my issue, I look at this as saying, we are giving staff direction on how to say this is compliant or this is not compliant. Without that, there's a lot of ambiguity. Further discussion?
so moved.
Motion by Berto. I will second it. Second by Val. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
No,
No,
So
Where's Patrice?
Yeah.
she voted aye, she's just muted. I was watching her mouth.
Motion carries. Okay, on to village clerk references.
Again, just a cleanup ordinance, we had to do this one separate from the remainder of the code, because this one applies to chapter 66, which has different publication requirements.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Motion by Bell, second by Bertle. All those in favor? Aye.
I,
Motion carries. Next one, I'll make a motion. On fees and forfeitures and treasurer's errors.
second,
Motion by Bell, second by Constance. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
I,
Introducing ordinance. Manufacturer device licensing cigarettes, electronic vaping devices and tobacco. Is that ready?
Yes, so the village has always been issuing licenses for cigarettes and tobacco products, as required by the state. And now the state has changed the rules that electronic vaping devices also need to be licensed. So we received notification of Act 73, which, makes those rules. And I did my best to incorporate the changes in there into a new ordinance for you to consider. I did pass out, and sorry, ladies online, I forgot to put this on my computer to share with you. Denise called me earlier today, and there's a one section in the code that I stopped typing and didn't finish my thought. So section 7.07 sub A sum 4 talks about denying a license, and if you fail to submit proof that you have a sailor's permit or remit sales tax. In this statute, it actually references chapter 776111, which I typed out on a little piece of paper and I can email it to you later. Which is this really lengthy explanation, and I tried my best to sum it up so that people didn't have to go back to chapter 77 to figure out, well, what are they referring to? And then I left out the rest of the language. So highlighted on there is what it should say to some degree. We don't issue permits, so I crossed that out. And I took out the reference to under this subchapter because I didn't want to reference chapter 77. I wanted it just to be in our chapter 7. So all of that language could be added, or we could shorten it up some more. But this is just a draft. Please suggest changes because it will have to be revised and reviewed by our village attorney.
I noticed on some of the questions, one was about the fee. If the current fee is 10 and it's been 10, I think that's fine. I know it says we can go up to $100, but I don't think a tenfold increase in a fee would be something that should be supported. But again,
I think 10, even though I pay the license, I think $10 is ridiculous. It doesn't even cover staff time for the, and there's not that many of us. It's probably under 10 in the village.
There's 7 of you.
7 of us. Doesn't cover staff time. I think 50 would be appropriate.
I agree.
What would? I guess I'd ask staff, how much time do you think what expense do you think the village incurs on it? Because I've always been against fees of, it costs more money to take the money in than it does to.
Well, there's now 3 forms that go with this application. In the past, it was just a single page check, sign at the bottom. So there's 3 complete forms that applicants will have to fill out. I compiled those. I put the explanation letter with those to send out to the different businesses. They'll have to bring them back. Those forms have to be reviewed. Now they will have to go into a packet for the board to review, unless you want to just have staff issue them without board review. Board review is really nice, though. You guys review the liquor licenses, so, and you do make a motion on the tobacco licenses in the past, but they're not included in the packet. And then I hand deliver them all. After I do the license template, I make sure that they get to the business. If the business is closed, then I do mail them, but,
You also do a background check, don't you?
background checks are part of it. We have been doing primarily the CCAP searches, but we can extend that, into a more formal through a police department if need be. So there'll be a fee associated with that. That service is not free. A CCAP search anybody can do right now for no fee, but it does take some time. And all members of the business entity, if it's a partnership or an LLC or a corporation, have to fill out those forms. So it might be more than just one person submitting applications. It could be multiple people for that one business. It's more paperwork.
We're kind of putting you on the spot, but how much do you think that really?
This is not, they're all new, these forms. I mean, in the past, the tobacco licenses didn't take so long because it was one page. So, I mean, it was just a component of the liquor license application. So initially this first year, until I get all the templates made, will be more time, maybe 20 minutes, half hour per business. And then creating the license, that takes a little bit of time. I don't know, I can't guess. How many times am I gonna have to answer the phone in between? So,
Sure. I guess I would agree with you, Denise. Let's set it at $50 and then let's see where that is and understand that.
I mean, I can certainly report back after this first year when we get through it.
I think it's. So I think I have a typo under section 701 definitions. The definitions contained in Wisconsin stats as from time to time amended. Should it be is from time to time amended?
As is how it appears in statute, because it's as amended from time to time.
Okay.
They just use all kinds of funny words.
Page 64. C. Upon filing of a proper written application, a license shall be issued by the village clerk or deputy clerk under the authority of the village board and the license fee.
Can add that there.
Section 7.05 sales to underage persons prohibited. Did you come up with any more better clarifying? Heidi and I talked about this on the phone this afternoon. It was very. The statutes, Heidi said, are usually not written well. Did you come up with anything else?
I honestly didn't. I
Okay.
didn't have time, sorry.
Okay. Under section 7.07. I thought it was a little bit unclear under number 1, denial of a license, if the applicant being an individual, all partners of a partnership, all members of a limited liability company, all agents of a limited liability company, and all officers of a corporation. I felt all should be replaced with a partner, a member, because it was sounding like all the partners had to do something wrong.
Well, and that, what it says in statute is the requirements under this section apply to all partners of a partnership, all members of an LLC, all agents of a limited liability company or corporation, and all officers of a corporation. So any one member who violates results in denial of the license.
I didn't really erase all that.
Sorry about that.
That's okay, because it just says has been convicted. It sounds like everybody needs to be convicted, but it's implying that it one means all.
Yeah,
Okay, also under denial of a license number 4, it says use tax and it should be sales tax.
and the reason that use tax was in there, that's where my sentence stopped, was because Chapter 77 deals with the clerk's job in issuing licenses and permits of all kinds. So, yeah, that we can
And so
fix.
then this is 7.7.
That number 4 that you were just talking about.
Right.
Is really referencing 77-61-11. that whole thing.
Right, and it says use tax in here again.
Right, because chapter 77 deals with the clerk's job in
Okay.
issuing all manner of licenses and
Okay.
permits.
Okay.
So I can include everything that's highlighted there, or I can sum it up.
No, I think that's great.
Okay.
If you add,
Add it to be more clear.
yeah, add everything highlighted here that Heidi handed out tonight. Those were my only comments.
So can we talk about the other issues to be addressed? We talked about, number 2, which was the fee. Then we have to look at number 3.
So these licenses were supposed to have been issued already by March 6th, per state statute, which we didn't have a board meeting to approve anything. So the question then becomes, do we issue the license now and have it expire June 30th and make people reapply with those new forms? Or do you want to just forego that and have them apply initially for the 24-25 license year? Because
Yeah, the state didn't give us very much time here, did they?
No, and I don't have to make my first report to the state until July 15th, which will be after the board meeting in June when they're approved.
I mean, I wouldn't be in favor of charging twice.
Right, that's the other question, yeah.
I
So,
think forego it.
and just wait till I send out the liquor forms and have it do it all at once. Then the last question, number 4 says, is this chapter adequate the way that it is, or do you want to address any other issues having to deal with cigarettes and tobacco, including language for controlled substances or language prohibiting purchase or possession by minors? I mean, those rules are there at the state level. Do you want them called out in your local ordinance?
I guess I would have to see what
What it is?
THC rules are
Yeah, I didn't provide.
without, I couldn't say we don't have anything. It's not legal in Wisconsin yet,
Right,
but they have a statute written for it.
yeah, they have
Yeah.
just, I
THC
don't
have
have
this
it.
legal, come with the farm bill. That's why you see it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there's so much that's going on in the market with that, so I wouldn't necessarily put it in here. We can keep this, I mean, this is the state statute, right? So, and it's for cigarettes, vaping devices, tobacco products. I wouldn't complicate it by adding more things to it.
That might
Those
be
things will have additional,
Its own.
yeah, they will.
Yeah. And to finish number 4, include language prohibiting purchase or possession by minors. That's already law,
That's it.
Right,
And it's in here, I thought,
Right.
that's what
Yeah.
we just talked about,
so.
the very last, when we were.
yeah, there is one little section in here that's about sales to underage persons, yeah. So, down the road, if you want that stuff, we can always look at it, but if this is okay, I'll make some revisions and bring it back next month for you to approve, so that it's in place in time for June.
Okay. And you will have time then to include that in with the liquor licenses.
Yep.
Another month won't hamper you.
Correct.
Okay.
All right, you're good, Heidi?
Yep.
Okay, 8 resolutions. Resolution for this CDI application of products facility.
Sure, so the Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation has a community development investment grant that businesses or municipalities can take advantage of. And we do have an aquatics facility that is proposed, and they'd like to take advantage of that grant. They need a resolution from us supporting the application.
So moved.
Second,
Motion by Berto, second by Cox. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Hi,
Resolution amending bylaws to create a housing committee.
Okay, so we talked about creating the housing committee. To do so, you actually have to amend your bylaws. But there are some things we need, some more details we need before we can finalize the resolution and approve it. Once approved, in effect, the committee is created. So, the question when I had met with Nate was, the number of memberships. So I wrote it to say no less than 3 nor more than 7. And then Nate had stakeholders and residents. Just looking direction. What does the committee want to see there or the board want to see there? So that we can, finalize the resolution and have you act on it tonight.
So, a couple questions. In the first whereas, it says, studies showing a need for affordable single-family housing in multiple family developments. Is it implying home ownership or that it could be also rentals, or is it just talking about structures in general, not?
So both of those organizations talked about the need for home ownership and for apartments.
Okay.
And then my understanding was we wanted this committee to look at home ownership and apartments.
Okay. And then the second whereas, when it's talking about, to identify impediments to affordable housing, address design, financing, physical layout, as well as other aspects involved in a community providing workforce housing. I think we really need to put, because my push for this in the beginning was what model are we going to use? I mean, to me, that's the number one question. Not saying that they can't answer other questions, but it doesn't talk about what kind of model we're gonna use. And I think if we're doing a resolution, that certainly should be in the wording.
I guess when I was looking at that, I was kind of keeping it broad and looking at this impediment as being part of that, but I understand your point. I want to specifically stated there. Makes sense.
What does the model mean?
Does the village own the property? Does the land trust own the property? Is there a homeowners
So it's
association?
ownership model.
It's how do we, not necessarily ownership model, how do we keep it workforce housing in perpetuity? That's the model, whatever that is. And maybe there's a couple of them, depending upon if there's different.
Yeah.
Rentals versus ownership.
I guess it's model specific in the thing, because
Yeah.
okay, if you're good with model, I mean, it's trying to cast as broad a net as I can, so we have latitude. But
And we'll always have these minutes to look back on to know exactly what I was talking about, right?
I do wanna, I am really supportive of this. I think it makes a lot of sense. I wanna caution us that we have, I think, 18 committees now. I think we need to get better about saying no to some other committees or thinking about how do we, this is a lot of staff time, it's a lot of community time, it's a lot of trustee time, really important, but I would recommend if we're moving forward with housing, I think recently we also added a parking one and maybe some others I'm forgetting. That we just be thoughtful in maybe what can go away or what can be sunsetted. So we don't have to decide that now, but just some comments.
sure, one of the things on here is that the committee is to be staffed by a committee member, meaning whoever. How I envision this is somebody's gonna record the meeting. And then we'll have minutes taken from that, so we don't have to have staff at the meeting. So staff
Got
will
it.
have some work to do, but it's not going to be at the meeting.
I viewed that to say they're also doing the minutes.
No,
No,
we've discussed that and said absolutely not.
because the committee member isn't going to be engaged and be able to be a full committee member.
Heidi,
I mean,
I don't mean to, put you on the spot here, and you can choose not to answer if you want to. But from somebody who sits in a meeting and eventually writes all the minutes, are you writing down things that we're discussing now and getting a jump start on the minutes? Or are you playing Wordle and then you go back and listen to the recording and type all your minutes from that? How does staff address?
I am trying to do my best to take down the comments that you're making. They're in really poor form at this point
Right.
because it takes me some time to process what exactly your thinking is to get to the point that I need to summarize.
Sure.
But as far as staff having to attend meetings, personally, there's no advantage to getting a recording of a meeting and then trying to do minutes when I don't know the people who are at that meeting. I'm not gonna be able to identify voices of individuals if I don't know who they are.
And I know Janelle, what Janelle does is she types and then she also listens to the tape for the meetings, because the meetings that she does, they tend to be much more detail oriented, like she misses something, she's asked at the next meeting to put it in, so it almost ends up being I don't wanna say a transcription, we've all read the minutes, but very, very detailed. Very time consuming, it's a full day to type some of those minutes. You're spending about a day typing one set of minutes sometimes. You figure the per hour rate, it's very expensive. And then if they sit at the meeting, you have that as well.
So you think it's best to do both, Heidi?
To attend and then listen to, have the recordings to listen to, yeah,
For Heidi,
for
right,
me.
that's what she does.
Because I don't always have time to create the outline before coming to the meeting with everything else that I have to do. So then, yeah, the recordings are really important, but for me, if this is a committee of stakeholders and I have no idea who you are, because I don't live in this community, I'm not gonna be able to work off of just an audio recording. Unless you're gonna set up Zoom and do video recordings of the meetings.
We actually have, seen a demo of doing minutes where you have to plug in who the speakers are and then it automatically is generating these minutes. The problem is you still have to go through and proof them and know who is talking because it's not perfect. So we've looked at things to make it easier, but a lot of money spent on minutes.
I would think that proofing of it though, maybe wouldn't take as long, and that might be a
I-
future. I was gonna wonder if there was anything like that in technology that would actually,
There is, and
Print
it's
the minutes.
actually the website that we just got, that service, they offer that as one of their services. Make it easier.
Actually have an AI join your Zoom meeting and they will do a decent job of transcribing it. We use that at work.
Well, and maybe we need to have, another conversation at another time about the depth and breadth of our minutes. I think Plan Commission, very detailed, very important. Some other ones, you know, where we're planting flowers, maybe not so much.
Yeah, I think you have to look at it. If it's one where your decisions are subject to a legal challenge.
Yeah.
As in a plan commission meeting, it makes sense to have more detailed meeting minutes. Parks or some of the other ones. I don't.
question specific, not to committees themselves, but specific to this one, housing one. So there's two things that we're addressing. One is affordable housing, one is workforce housing. Sounds like the same thing, pretty much would be the same thing. And then I immediately start thinking, okay, what are the repercussions? Because you mentioned, how are we always going to make sure it can stay in workforce housing, which means somebody needs to be working actively in one of the businesses, either specifically in Sister Bay or Northern Door County or something. We'll have, you guys will define that, I'm sure. But if I look at someone maybe towards the end of their working life, but they are still needing to work and they maybe get a job up at the Pig and they're cashier, you know, they're older and they're about to retire in a couple of years and they find themselves in one of these and then they do retire. Do they need to move out? That's a tough, those are things you're gonna probably have to deal with in these stipulations.
I think it should be a really good mix.
Yeah.
That encompasses
Yeah.
all,
Yeah, because that would be a tough thing to do.
yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I've heard some feedback concern about calling it workforce housing because there are people that own businesses. Well, I'm not technically workforce, I own my business, I need to do that.
Right,
So
so
I think
that's,
that at some point if we wanted to put workforce. in
you guys will
the-
figure it out. I'm just saying, I just be cautious of that, you know, that's what it's for. That's what we're trying to do is make it affordable for people to come up and have jobs and be able to afford to live here.
Mhm.
But then making it overly restricted to that, you might have you end up with some.
Unintended consequences.
Yes, familiar with that. I think what it comes down to is, we don't want this to be a second.
Yeah.
That would be, at least in my opinion, an absolute failure, and I think that's.
Yeah.
That's somewhere in the spectrum on it.
Yeah, and I would also say this, then, keep this in mind, because we're all, look, we're all homeowners, a lot of us are business owners, a lot of, but all of us, I think, are at least homeowners. We're obviously all in the village, or we wouldn't be on the port, right? So if we're able to invest in this and build this for this purpose, and that investment is more the hard work it takes to figure out how to do this without at the same time putting in new ordinances and rules that create a big value drag on the properties that are currently in the village to try and sort of how reset the values, then we all lose. Because that means there could be, hey, we could solve this by putting in measures that make Sister Bay an unattractive place for people to want to move. And all of a sudden, all of our property values go down. That would be a lose-lose ultimately, because then we wouldn't have people coming up here anyway, and we wouldn't need workforce housing. I mean, there's a way to invest in this to make it good for everybody, good for the people that live here, good for the new people who want to live here, make affordable housing available for them without decreasing value of the homes that are here. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, but I hear what you're saying. I think I understand what you're saying. I just don't know how that could possibly happen.
I think if you took this on too big of a scope, I think that you could, it's potential that you. If the goal is affordability at any cost, I think we could get to where Don's saying.
Okay.
I don't see this committee doing that. I think what I hear you describing, Don, is a Pyrrhic victory. I mean, like, yeah, great, you know, nobody wants to live here and the houses are all really, really affordable. That's not good. But that's not a concern
Okay.
I have, but fair point. You still looking?
No, but yeah, no, I was just thinking, do we have 1,200 or 1,600 parcels in the village? Can't remember which one.
It's closer to 1,600, I believe.
Okay, all right, 1,600 parcels. And I can't remember. Maybe it's 1,200 of them have a structure on it. Maybe,
That could be.
maybe that's what it is. The only way that would ever happen is that if we build, 600 to 800 homes. I think what
And even
I
then,
don't know.
that might not do it. I mean,
might not even do it. Yeah.
To make it undesirable?
Yeah.
Well, what if it was all a certain type of housing, like maybe you allowed all just tiny homes or all apartments? I know we talked about that. I mean, there could be negative effects of some of those. But they'll
There's
look at a
no-
mix, they'll look at a
I'm
mix
not
of
talking
it.
about, I'm not talking about the ones we're building.
Oh,
Oh,
I'm saying that,
I'm talking about the existing homeowners with, if you put ordinances in and measures that. Because for a while, there was a thought that the committees and board has had discussions around, hey, if we limit STRs to a certain extent, that'll drive pricing down because housing will be more affordable. It's not proven. There's no statistics that show that would happen, but I'm just thinking about things like that.
okay,
Not-
ordinances.
Ordinances.
Things that we
Correct.
might do for
Right.
this
Right.
development that would impact the current housing stock. Okay, now I got you down.
Yeah.
Okay. Any new rules, regulations? Okay. The no less than 3 and no more than 7, I'm really uneasy with 3 people taking on this task.
Totally.
that is why I've got it right.
5 to
Okay.
7.
5 to 7 is I'm much more comfortable with.
I agree.
And then we're okay with stakeholders and residents.
I mean, some of the direction that came from the board last time, and I've started having conversations with people that are not residents.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of important in this one. I fundamentally believe anything that is not, any committee that's not making a binding decision, we should leave ourselves open because.
For expertise,
Yeah.
whoever that is.
And ultimately, the village board still has to approve these people, so we're not just going to have some random people coming off the street that don't have the village's interest in mind. We're gonna have to collectively agree on those people.
I think this is one you're gonna have more than two people who want to be on it. So that's good. That's a good problem to have.
So I think we should also delete the committee is to be staffed by a committee member. Just at this point in time, and we will. I mean, is Heidi going to be responsible for the minutes? Or
What Janelle does about 6 to 8, depending on the meeting length, overtime a week on minutes. Heidi does, I don't know, housing is more of a planning thing. I mean, by statute, housing is given to a plan commission, so by rights, Janelle should take it. She has parks, which goes late one week, because they get time and a half, right, when you're working overtime, unless you can work unless we can meet during the day.
and depending upon committee makeup, that might be a possibility.
You might get professionals that are doing it.
So I think for now, we should just take that out until we know what's exactly going to happen.
That also doesn't mean that we couldn't have it staffed by a committee member, but we don't, if we pull that from the resolution, that gives us flexibility.
And at least one trustee stays on there?
Absolutely, has to be a trustee.
One thing on there about that trustee is I do not necessarily think that trustee needs to be the chairman. I just want to point that out. So
That's
that's,
okay.
that's how it's written.
Yeah. It's okay.
And then just for clarification to the trustee is paid. I'm assuming.
Every committee a trustee is on. If the committee's not paid, the trustee is. So with all those changes, can we make a motion then as amended?
Yep.
And move this forward?
Yep.
So moved.
Motion by Berta,
Second.
second by Cox. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
And I'll run and add in the people for that. I know you're talking to people too.
Yeah, I've got, you know, because the board had said Jeff Lefty, Mercer Dow's, I've talked to Miles. I want to sit down with those three at some point,
Yeah, I'll run and add too.
please. And there's also a number of those other people that, at that Saturday, where the housing study was presented, there's a couple of people that reached out on there. Okay. Resolution 2024-06, authorizing the village, state and local government investment pool and authorizing signers to the account.
So moved.
Motion by Berto,
Yeah, second.
second by Cox. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Hey,
Motion carries. Okay, for 9A, I am going to recuse myself and hand it over to Judy.
Well, I'm just, you can read the agenda item. And then I'm just gonna make a motion to approve.
I'm still gonna step out there, so let me get out of the audience first, please.
Okay, this is for the telecommunications facility and water towers with Bertram. What this is to exercise our right to take advantage of the fee based on CPI. We didn't do it at the 5-year renewal, so we recommend doing it at 10-year and to keep doing it when we can.
Yes,
So moved.
second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carried. Nate, you can come back.
Okay, 9B, task and orders contract with Stanton.
Okay, so like it says, last month we approved the municipal services agreement. Stantec will do little things for us that we've already talked to them about going out and looking at some of our culverts. That's all part of that MSA. Special projects takes a task order. These would be the 4 task orders that we would be asking, for approval on. And then we will need a contract on the soil borings. We don't have that contract yet, but hoping that we can at least get that approved, and then once Randy looks at it, enter into that agreement. But we need to proceed with those soil borings, so.
Is this about what we budgeted all these surveys at? I mean, I'm guessing there's like $49,000 for these 4, is about right?
Well, what happened is we did know, when we had looked at the consultants, we knew that these were gonna be the fees, or approximately the fee, cost of everything, so. Some of these were presented to parks as well.
Julie, we would never take any of these out for like an RFP, right? This is part of the current
Correct.
arrangement. Okay.
Yeah, they're too small. They
Okay.
don't hit the threshold for that.
So do you want a motion?
Yes.
So moved.
Yep, second.
Motion by Britta, second by Cox. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, 10A, conditional use permit and agreement on the 12-unit apartment buildings, Glen Lane, Premier Field Crest, Sister Bay.
Okay, we've seen this before. This is the 3rd time. This went back to Plan Commission. They added last meeting, there was a change or question about the landscaping requirements. Went back to Plan Commission, cleaned it up, made it much simpler. My understanding is the applicant still is not satisfied with it, but this is what Plan Commission has recommended. They do not want to hold up housing, so they want to offer the development agreement and the conditional use permit, and hopefully the property owner accepts it and signs it.
I do remember on page 104, where that whole development agreement is, and the red was highlighted. And then in the black is, the red goes away and the black there. But before the red starts, I do remember, the developer talking about why would the village have to go hire Door County landscaping firm and request a written estimate when they, as the developer, already have an estimate? And so I don't see that in here. I thought we talked about that could be okay.
We not have an estimate for them, or for us not to do an estimate.
Right, if we had their estimate. So if they showed us an estimate, you know, for $10,000 and we went, no. I think it could be either or, I mean, it already says may,
Yeah.
but it doesn't talk about the developer submitting their estimate.
So then you're saying that'd be up to staff to say, wow, this, you're gonna do this for $5, yeah, right? Or if it seems sufficient to them, then
Depending upon the scope, the size of the project. I just think they can submit their estimate and the village may. That's only my 2 cents.
that seems reasonable. I don't think it's gonna have as much of an impact on it, but I think it, yeah, there's no, I don't have any disagreement with that.
Okay.
Anybody else?
So what change are you exactly looking for in there? Because we're telling the developer, you know, if you don't get this done, we might take your plan and get get an estimate on it. Make sure we have that money set aside.
If an extension is requested, the developer shall provide a sufficient amount of funds to cover the related costs. In order to determine the sufficient amount of funds that will be required, the village administrator may present the previous mentioned landscaping plan to a representative of a Door County landscaping firm and request a written estimate for the required work. I think before that sentence starts, the village administrator may present. Is that the developer may submit their estimate from their landscape company, or the village administrator may contact.
Instead of just trusting them to provide sufficient funds, is what we're saying. Because right now it's saying the developer provides sufficient funds to cover the related costs.
Right, only based on a Door County landscaping firm's written estimate.
Okay.
Where we have the opportunity to use their estimate from their landscaping. company.
Right. Yeah, I think they misread. I remember last meeting, they misread the intent. They thought we were going to willy-nilly hire a local landscaping company, and they did not like that. We said that was never in there.
Right,
It basically said we get a,
Money, it's just about money.
so,
Yeah.
I don't, I would hope they would not have an issue with that language now. I mean, we talked about that. I thought they moved off of that, and the only outstanding issue was the timing to complete all of that. Might be in winter time, and it's
Right.
well,
And that's when you get the extension, yeah.
I thought that was kind of where we ended it, and they were okay with everything else. There's, I mean, sure, after we broke, there was a million other discussions, so.
Denise, just for me, you said that the board then, or the village administrator evaluates that estimate to see if it's reasonable? You said something about reasonableness of the developer's estimate?
Correct,
So
to concur with, the pricing.
and that Julia is just reviewing that, making that determination, okay.
Sure. But the wording that should be added also to it is that the developer may submit their
Estimate.
estimate. And with that, I'll make a motion to approve as amended.
Motion by Bertle,
Second,
second by Chantal. Those in favor?
Aye.
I,
Opposed? Motion carries. Liquor license request from Country House Incorporated.
Okay, so Country House Inc., doing business as Country House Resort at 2468 Sunnyside Road, has requested a liquor license. I apologize that you did not get that in your original packet. My staff report got omitted somewhere. I did email it to you. If, this is for a beer and wine license, like every other hotel in Sister Bay resort has. It is a prorated license at this point, so we are only licensing until the end of June, and then they would resubmit an application for the regular licensing year.
So I did have a question that I called Heidi on page 142. And then I called Ben, who is going to be are you the agent?
Yes.
I can't remember. There were so many people.
Yeah, I'm the agent.
Okay. And on line 13, the premises description. And it's an alcohol to be stored in back office / lobby carriage house. Alcohol to be sold in all guest rooms, public decks, and general grounds. It can't be sold in the guest rooms, public decks, and general grounds. And so I called Ben on what he really meant by that. And I'll let you speak for yourself on what you told me.
Yeah, so basically we will be selling it at the front desk and then it might be consumed in the guest room, our public decks, or on our property. So I was just trying to encompass where it would be consumed, but we clarified that should be changed.
So I think, Ben was willing to go fill this all out again and bring it to your office today. And I said, I think if we can come to agreement at the board meeting, we can strike the word sold, we can
Have it right here.
do that tomorrow or tonight,
That'd be perfect.
right here,
Much appreciated.
with the witness, and change that word to consumed, because you are really only purchasing it
Correct, yeah,
from the front desk.
And the liquor license forms are going to be changing yet again, so these are not the applications that you will get for your renewal if the state ever provides me with the new ones. Still waiting.
So I have a question about that. When you read that, that was helpful, Denise, because I mean, I travel almost every week for work, and the mini bar, you are buying it in your room. A lot, I mean, every hotel I stay in, you can buy it in your room. Why would we? Is
That's a
that what,
different license.
that's a different license? Okay, thank you for that clarification. I
So
just
that-
was one, like, we would, like, wouldn't we support that as a board?
They would have to apply for a different license then.
Okay, so then if that's what you guys actually want, just want to put that out there.
It's just a clarification, right, Denise, that people aren't on the decks, the patios, et cetera, little bellhop coming around selling cocktails, drinks. They're actually just being sold at the front desk, and then they are bringing it out there themselves. Correct. Yeah.
Wherever on the premises they choose to.
Yeah.
Enjoy.
So approval of this also then would be approving Ben as agent for the property.
So
So
moved.
moved with that correction on the original license application.
A second.
Motion by Berto, second by White. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. 10C, financial reports. I will start by making a motion that we pay the bills in the amount of $516,490.29.
Second.
Second by Berto. Discussion?
She is online if there is a question.
I asked my questions earlier.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Opposed, motion carries. Staff reports.
So, just real quickly, I know a lot of you have seen the website, just a little history on that, we've had. For years, I think we've been a little unhappy with our website, we've budgeted money for it for the last couple of years. We actually did have a web developer, come up with a new template and transfer everything over. They transferred it last Friday, from Friday, and we were not able to get into the system till Monday to make the changes. So we're slowly making the changes. We've had a lot of people say, oh, this is wrong, this is wrong. We know it's been wrong on the website for years, so we're slowly whittling through those. I know we saw that photos to it. We have John George from Destination Door County gave us a whole file quite a while ago that we sent to the web developer, and then they're like, no, you guys add the photos, so we have to add those. One of the things that I know I've heard about is, some people don't like the cover photo. And when the web developer actually gave it to me, like, I don't know if that's gonna go. Cause I had told him, I said, we want something different. We don't wanna be anywhere USA. We wanna be unique. And he's like, well, what about this? And I said, I don't know about that, cause it's, artificial intelligence that actually generated the picture. And he explained what they did is they loaded the photos in, and that's the picture that came up. And his recommendation was, try it for a while, see how it goes. It's a big change. I know some people don't like it, but you know, my recommendation is let's just go with it. We are looking at younger families, trying to get people to come here. It is using different technology. I think we need to give it a shot before we change it. But
I abhor it. Just so everybody knows how I feel. You know, don't want to be shy. And the reason that I say that, and I sent Julie an email. Well, first of all, I sent her 20 pages of screenshots, 20 pages of the web that everything I found wrong with them, and that was just the beginning. I haven't gone back to do the rest of it yet. But I don't believe, first of all, that is not who Sister Bay is, and in my opinion. And secondly, we have spent $10 million on a waterfront with phenomenal views. And there are thousands of pictures out there on all different aspects of our village. And all the other websites that I looked at in Door County, not one of them has a cartoon on their homepage. And that's what I feel this is a cartoon. Plus, there's a lighthouse on it, and Sister Bay does not have a lighthouse. And then I understand, well, I don't understand, but that a lot of the text needs to be changed because they just cut and pasted. So that will be worked through, but I really also have an issue with the main large font that looks really childish to me. We are a community. I think we have a certain standard. And to me, it just does not look professional. And that's where I'm at.
That's how I feel about that.
Yeah. So,
There's nothing harder than creating a new website. For a company, a village, I don't care, anything, right? A charity. And I think if you have 10 people in a room, you have 10 different opinions, and so thank you for giving yours. I was actually gonna say, I like it better than what it was. Is it perfect? No, it's work in progress. And I think getting more opinions, and now that it's new, and anything new immediately attracts opinion, whether it's good or bad, indifferent. Now's the time probably to get people to make those comments, because I don't find it as polarizing as obviously you do, but yeah, there's some places for improvements, but I thought it alone was a bit of an improvement from the kind of clunky old one, 90s kind of one we had. This at least is a
I
little
mean,
refreshing.
I'm not criticizing any of its functionality.
Right,
at
right,
this
just a
point.
visual,
Yeah.
it's a visual, but that's, again, that's art, you go to go to 10 people's houses and you'll find 10 different
Yeah.
art appreciations, right?
Sure.
That's what a website is, so. Good luck, trying to figure out what looks best for the village, but I'd say it's at least something fresh. And it did what it was supposed to do, it got some attention, and maybe from that attention. Other improvements and other looks and feel, I don't know how much. More time you want to put towards it, or you're planning to put towards it, I would imagine some.
We have to go through every single page.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
there's pages that keep that, they could bring you to broken links, and
Yeah.
that's because that's the way it was.
That's.
And they just transferred
Name
everything
fix all
over.
that, that's all.
We need time to get through all of that before we start worrying about.
See, what I don't understand though, and this was in my email to Julie also, is that why did this website go live before all those changes were made? We had no beta testing, and that to me is a huge issue.
So this, Julie has heard about this from me for a bit on this, and I tried reaching out to the web developer. I think that there is a process issue on there. There was not the ability to see it at the village office beforehand. There was not a choice on timing on one that is. Friday afternoons, you never make any big technological change on a Friday afternoon. I understand your points about the aesthetic of it, Denise, and I don't really care for that picture either. I'd be happy to I've got a lovely picture looking out over the Marina Breakwater, the sunset, we can put that in there, right away.
We have a whole folder of professional ones. I gotta be honest with you, I'm afraid I'm gonna put the wrong picture up there though, so.
Yeah, at this point, right?
It's one that. I
As
think
long
we
as
need
it's a
committee.
photo of Sister Bay or the waterfront or one of our parks or something, it's a photo. It's not a cartoon.
You know, what a lot
I'll
of
be temporarily happy.
other communities have a picture of their village office, of their town office. That's what the majority of them have, because I did look at some others, I just found them. Place. And I don't know that that's exactly what we want, but
Is that the method you want us?
I guess I would personally,
Maybe our new one.
So I ask you, let us get through correcting it first, okay? And as I've explained to Nate, we were not happy. They're like, no, you're going live. And we're like, no, we can't. And they're like, no, sorry. And it was live and we're like, oh my God. Then we couldn't access it because of our security. So it went all weekend without being able to fix it. And then once we could get in Monday, we started fixing it right away. It's just the way it
I know,
went.
but it's going to take weeks. So what is the web developer's answer? Why they couldn't do everything. And you have both of them, and one of them just has a little different web address while you're doing the beta test, fixing all the glitches, but the old one is still being functional. I still haven't gotten that answer.
That,
I guess I just.
there is
need-
no answer to that. I mean, like, so whenever I've been, I don't deal with websites very much. When I deal with websites, I'm the one who says, okay, I like this or I don't like this. I'm not the guy who actually does any work on the website. It's always been a test dot whatever domain, .com.gov, you have that so you can see them both there. The other issue that Julie is facing on this is an IT issue inside the office. And we're working on that. I mean, there's some concrete steps we need to take to make sure that that doesn't happen again, and that's also not my forte. But I could help Julie get through that. I think we've got a good first step on that.
For future on things like this, the only thing that really did surprise me was. That we were surprised. They're probably. I think that maybe the board should have at least seen it.
Us too.
Yeah, and you understood
Us
before
too, we
it
never
surprised
saw
the
it.
whole, that's just amazing to me. That
See, I mean, a
That's
company
loose.
that you're
That's loose.
paying,
I think, to be honest with you, I think
should have been in
it,
the contract, right?
I think it ended up being a lot more than was expected. So first of all, we didn't have a lot of money, so you get what you pay for. Although it's a very good company, I'm not saying anything bad about that. But what happened is they offer 10 applications where you can do 10 things online. Ours is, Patty, do you know how many we're up to? 40?
Like, yeah,
And so there was so much time spent on getting these applications and then getting them formatted, and I'm like, no, I don't like that, I'm like, change it, because there'd be stuff, I'm like, no, we don't even do that here, and there was just that took, I think, way more time than anybody expected to get all those applications online. So it is what it is. Staff is moving forward with it, we're making the changes every day.
I do have something that I see Ellie's on up there, and I apologize. But I'm not doing minutes right now from SBAA meeting this morning I had, but I will. But they just announced they're now going to be redoing their website, new look, new logo, everything. And I always thought it was a bit strange. I respect the strangeness of the decision that we would have our marketing outreach website, sisterbay.com, have a different look, whether logo, whether feel, than sisterbay.gov. I mean, we're just changing. So for both changing, we're presenting two really different visuals to the community and to tourists, to everybody who wants to come up with a lot of the same kind of stuff, right? Well, on ours, we show where events are taking place. On theirs, they show where events. It's almost like the same thing, but different. And if they look different, we haven't worked together as partners as we should. So
Yeah, we.
something to think about, but they're just starting theirs as well. I don't know what you guys feel about that, but.
I think it should have been.
Yeah.
I mean, they do the branding of Sister Bay.
Yeah. And
Absolutely.
And this is what
I
this
mean,
is too, branding.
we are a government entity.
Yep.
Yeah, we are talking about or
Yep.
displaying some of the same things, absolutely, but I think in the future it should absolutely be coordinated and.
So I'm just gonna say this from my web experience and training that I've had. Your government site is not your tourism site. You keep them separate. There's some coordination in there and we link over and we try to make it look good, but we don't want somebody to think we are the tourism site and stop there like, oh, I got all the
But we do
information.
say there's retail, there's this, you know what I mean? They're still on the site, the government site, it shows you.
We're cleaning a
businesses.
lot of that.
Plus, they have the thousands of pictures that we can choose from. You got it from.
Yeah, because we don't want to duplicate them.
Yeah, so anyway.
I think that you can have a coherent yet different. I think it is important that they know that, oh, I'm not on
Right.
Sister Bay Advancement site anymore, I'm on Sister Bay's, but some of these pages, the village doesn't need to make. I mean, like, as far as talking about tourism, and all that, we can,
Have a link over to the SBAA site.
And that's what Heidi's been working on, is getting rid of all those little things where we're just repeating what SBAA had. Which opens it up for more errors, rather just link over to them.
I think she hung up when I said that. Oh, hi, Ellie, are you still on?
She just offered to share photos with
Oh,
us. So I
sorry
said
for
we
bringing
do.
it up.
So
No worries.
I got-
Well, yeah, we're happy to do it the best we can to coordinate with, with the village. And I'm happy to share any photos, that you might want to use for your new website. We did have a photographer here just this past summer, so we have some great current shots. And so we're happy to help out where we can and coordinate where we can as well.
And I just think too, that maybe some of the actual text where it was giving some history of some things or whatever that was outdated or whatever, I still think that SBAA could help with some of that
For sure.
on updating some of the text on certain places.
I think we should also make it, the other thing I'd say is we should try and not have duplication, let's not have the same page. Two different locations.
Which is a big
Right.
problem on that website. Working.
I think it
through location.
I think it would be a good idea to include a historic picture of the beginnings of Sister Bay. And then where we are today with that beautiful waterfront and the beach. We need to feature all that, of course, and the marina. And definitely get away from the cartoon look.
So I'm gonna ask you, let us continue to make our edits and get rid of all the errors. It's gonna take time. We're doing it kind of as a side job during our day. Give us time. It's been this way for years.
How much time would you need?
Well, we're working on it every day.
You're
What do you
talking
think
months?
Give us, I don't know, you guys, you're in a busy season. I have.
No, this is what you would normally be asked. If
No,
you
I
said something
didn't.
like, give me time, somebody would say, well, how much time do you need? And then we would come up with an agreement, because if this goes on for a year or two, you might
Oh,
say,
it will
so-
go on for.
well, but so I'm just asking, how much time do you realistically think it might
But
take? Because these
and
things,
also-
so it's out there now,
Right, it is out
so
there.
clock's ticking,
And
right?
so if there's. You should not be the web designer or the content moderator. If we can ask certain things, if SBAA is willing to work with us on content, text, whatever, where it would be appropriate for them to assist, then that would lessen the time and the burden.
I agree, but I'll say this, right now it's causing more work. We need to get through the errors and duplication first
Okay.
and see what we have.
Okay,
And then say, okay, now what needs to be addressed?
okay.
So
And we will
April
reach out.
30th?
Pardon?
So April 30th, will be done with that?
By the time you have a new board. No, I take that back. May,
Well,
May first, May
May
first, May
April
first,
3rd, that's what I just heard.
May first. May
It
first.
seems reasonable, 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Can we get that first page, the first picture updated?
I thought we were gonna give it time and
I
see
love
what
that
happens.
picture.
I've
I
got
got
some,
it.
we've got some members who like it, some who don't.
They are
Let's
working
see.
to remove the lighthouse and the bus though.
Ah, there you go.
So that has been requested. She's gonna check on and see if that can get done.
And I'm surprised they're leaving the bus. The bus is a big part of us, right?
No, we don't
No.
allow buses to be parked on the highway.
We have a shuttle bus.
That doesn't look like a.
No.
Sister Bay bus.
We should get to the point where we are associated with buses, that'd be fantastic, but we're not right now.
I guess I'm so focused on fixing it and getting accurate information and
I think that make changing that one picture would make me a little bit happier, would make Denise much happier. Just
as I explained, I'm not gonna repeat what I said to me.
give it a chance, I understand you say give it a chance, and what did I say? I said, well.
No, what I,
my opinion,
what I
so let's-
said is, sometimes the Titanic's sinking and we're rearranging the chairs. Let's fix the problems. We wanna fix these errors first. Let us fix the errors. Can we do that?
It's one photo.
I don't understand, like, I think that we're probably taking more time talking about the photo
Yep.
than it should take to.
Okay, send me the photo you want. We're gonna put it out there and that's what we're gonna go with, okay? I'm not gonna look through it because I know it's gonna be wrong. You guys send me the photo you want. We're gonna put it out there. Who's sending the photo?
Denise, you want to, otherwise I can.
I am going to ask SBAA to choose a photo.
That represents the village and not just tourism.
I would say, let's give her a little bit of direction, say the waterfront. And I'll accept that she's got an incredible anti-sunset bias.
And this is the opinion of everybody.
Who has anything to say, Sunset?
Ellie,
I am not anti-sunset.
I know what your motto was last year for Instagram. Sunset free in 23. I will always remember that, Ellie.
We were just trying something new. We were very heavily sunset photos prior to that. So we were just, testing something new last year. New year, new sayings here from us.
That way, if you find a waterfront photo that you think would be appropriate for now,
Okay.
for the time being,
That says,
I'm fine with that, and then you know what you've sent us, and you won't use it anywhere on your website.
Sounds good. I can definitely do that. And then just to share, some people that have shared with us that they did think that cover photo read a little more like Ephraim than Sister Bay. So just wanted to at least kind of share that.
I don't know about Ethan, but anyway. But I think we can move past that.
yeah, can we move past that? So, just other things, the Mill Road West project started, trying to keep that thing going alive. And then Cherrywood, we just had, found a small issue with the Cherrywood project that the ditches they were too steep, so we're gonna go back and repair that as well. So those were, I think, the big things, when I wrote the report. I don't think there's a different one. There is no other reports in there.
We had a sewer and water.
Yeah, we have Megan's.
Oh, did you? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It's on the back
I
of your
didn't have
page, Julie.
Oh, I
sorry.
didn't turn. I didn't put my
I didn't mean to
I'm
print
sorry.
that one back to back.
Yeah.
Then on to committee reports. Okay, coastal byways,
Nothing.
emergency management has not met. Is that possibly going to happen?
You have an email in your inbox asking for meeting dates.
Finance committee has not met. Fire board,
I think finance was Tasha trying to get a meeting set up.
yeah, but we didn't, so we had that signer on this item.
Okay.
Item 8C. Fire board,
So no one here to report on that.
green tier,
We have been working through our audit. So I have to call out the team, our Julie and the whole team for just all of the work that they've done to ensure that we're able to report on all of the work that's happening, not just at Green Tier, but actually across all of our different committees. So it's been a significant amount of work. But that was a large chunk of what we've talked about over the last couple of meetings. We've been actually meeting almost every other week just because there's quite a bit of activity right now. I don't think there's anything other than that really to report on unless, Julie, I'm looking at you. Is there anything besides that?
Talked about the health in all places policies.
Yeah, good
and
point.
Yeah, and asking that when we are doing the comp plan and the rec plan and some of these other plans are developing policies, that we keep that in mind, that when we're making decisions, they keep the health element in mind. So if we're looking at doing a road, we think about the health impacts of it, or if we're supporting a project, what is the health impact? That is something that the Green Tier leaders really stress, and it's pretty popular in some other communities to make sure you have a healthier community, is make sure your policy decisions are related to that.
And I think at the end of the day, thanks for reminding me about that one. We spent a lot of time talking about that because so many other communities do that. We actually went as far as to say, gosh, at like an ideal state would be that this is one of our policies, that the health in all policies actually becomes part of how Sister Bay manages everything we do, having health as one of our focuses. But then when we started talking through the practicality of that and the implications to it, obviously we have a lot of other foundations, I'll say, to build before we would actually be able to execute on that. But it's something definitely for consideration, and for the board, as I, step off of the board in April, for the board to continue to think about. And we can share that, share more details around that with the board.
Sarah, can you expand about, the goal of hiring a sustainability coordinator?
That's not right now one of our, something that came out.
Brings it up frequently at our meetings because Egg Harbor has a sustainability coordinator who's able to apply for grants. And they get a lot of money in Egg Harbor.
Thanks, Heidi. I know we've talked about it. I was like, I didn't know we'd brought that forward as a recommendation yet.
It's just mentioned in the minutes.
Thank
Because
you.
Mary would like to see it happen for Sister Bay. She recognizes that, staff can't do all of the work for Green Tier. And a sustainability coordinator would be the way to go.
And really that person would, quite often they actually pay for themselves through the grants that they're able to obtain. So from like a budget standpoint, there are ways in which we could potentially make it budget neutral. We also that person would become a spokesperson at the board meetings or at other committee meetings to bring knowledge and information related to sustainability efforts, just giving us all new ways to think about how we could actually apply sustainability into everything that we're doing. So that's another piece that we spoke about.
Thank you.
Historical Society?
Yep, I got a, email from our president, Fred Johnson. They're working with time and hopefully they're going to do a Mother's Day brunch fundraiser with time in May. And there was some discussion about a possible acquiring an STR for income for the SBAHS. I'm not sure if this is a donation or kind of sounded that way or what that was all about, but that's all his current letter said. That's it.
I didn't understand that kind of last paragraph. What about an STR doing a fundraiser?
Yeah, so he sent us a letter and it said that the Historical Society is just talking about acquiring an STR and that would serve as income for the SBHS. But I'm not sure if that is a donation. It would almost have to be for them to go forward with that. And they're just in the talking stages right now with it.
Okay. Well, the lighting task force has not met.
Not appointed yet.
Not yet. Library Commission?
We have a couple issues we're navigating right now. One is we are down a member from Sister Bay, so we really need to fill that seat.
We approved that
Oh.
last month.
Yeah, we
I
had,
was not- I was
So
not
Maurice
informed.
Ash- Maurice
Yep,
Ash
Maurice-
and David Watkins are both appointed now to the library and they are.
Okay, so we did end up appointing David.
Yes, and he is aware of that.
Okay, fabulous. And then when I leave, obviously filling the seat as quickly as possible is something that the library committee kind of asked me to communicate back with the board. Then the other issue that came up was around our facility operations manager position. We have a vacancy there. There's quite a bit of work that individual does, even if it's only 10 hours a week or so. We are definitely feeling that at the library, and we are looking. I don't know, Julie, if Julie Kingsman has had a chance to talk with you about that role since just in the last week or so, but we're going to need some help navigating kind of how we fill that seat.
I think you guys really need to hire somebody else. In my opinion, I mean, we made a decision at this board last month that we would certainly help out, but it would be out, the cost would be at our charge out rates. And, and that probably is somewhere in the $40 to $50 an hour range. And,
That's,
you know, if you're gonna find time to compensate Christina, the librarian, according to your minutes for the extra work that she has been doing to cover this position's role during the interim, I really don't think that the library is going to be able to afford to pay the village for 10 hours a week, nor do they have 10 hours a week.
I would
to-
just ask the Sister Bay to consider, I don't know, Eric, I see you came on camera. I don't know if you have any thoughts around this, or if you've been brought into any of these conversations.
you want us
I
to
mean,
consider.
I have
So-
limited knowledge of this. Me and Julie have had just perennial discussions through email on it. I'm going to be attending their meeting in April just to kind of get a grasp of what's needed and everything like that. But, you know, just as far as like hour wise and everything, I was not aware of the 10-hour minimum or what is actually involved in, you know, what is actually needed at that facility to get it up and running where it needs to be.
yeah, and I guess I think I appreciate that perspective, Eric. I think just coming to hear about what are some of the challenges. I mean, the library is a service of, you know, to Sister Bay, to Liberty Grove, to the community. So I think there's a lot of opportunity to figure out how we can better align to the village. So I appreciate you coming, and then maybe we can just continue the conversation.
Absolutely.
But I think when did you miss last month's meeting, Sarah? I can't remember.
I did, yeah.
Okay. So when we were talking, we talked about that it is the Sister Bay Liberty Grove Library.
Yeah, of course.
And that, to volunteer Sister Bay's crew would be inappropriate when it's a joint venture and costing then Sister Bay more money. That's why we agreed that it would be at the charge out rate if something did need to be done in a timely manner and there wasn't somebody else that could be called.
All right, I'm just saying it's an issue that we need to figure out how to handle. I hear you. I don't know the right thing to do, but it just continues to be a challenge. So perhaps there's a creative solution we can come up with. That was it.
I know a couple of months ago, I had questioned the minutes and about the current cleaning company that's been doing it for years was let go, and Anna P was hired, and what I talked about is exactly what happened, that things were not being cleaned properly, only coming twice a week. That our librarian had to meet their staff. She did meet also with John Hill, the owner, who apologized. And now he's offered to come the library 2 days in February for the things that were missed. Is that getting any better?
Yeah, I'm so glad you brought that up. We are really involved in that, and Christine has a lot of support with it. Anna P has been a lot better ever since it was really a training issue and getting some consistency. So yeah, we've seen a lot of improvement. I think there's still a ways to go. But they did waive some of our fees and some of our like full days because the cleaning wasn't up to our standards. So I would say they have been a really good partner in helping to come to resolution.
Marina Committee,
Haven't met.
Ad hoc Outdoor has not met, Park Task Force has not formed. Parks, Properties and Streets.
I did talk to Nate, I'm just gonna say it publicly that, we had a new member who misses more meetings than shows up, and that I would like that member to be replaced. Absences just do not work.
It just so to get it out there, what I said to Denise was, okay, I understand that. We're gonna be going through the committee process here in a month. So obviously we can get something done tonight, but
Right.
yeah, that will be addressed.
And does anybody have any questions from the minutes of the Perks meeting and okay,
All right, go ahead.
specifically pertaining to things referencing the Perks maintenance building on what it kind of looks like now, where the placement is, just looking for some feedback. I cannot tell you how impressed I was with Mike Martin from McMahon. Unbelievable. Just unbelievable. Great. We've had 2 meetings. We have another one next Monday. Very, very happy we chose them. Done.
Yeah, this didn't have to do with the parks.
Oh,
I'm
that's
sorry,
okay.
that building, had to do with the village hall, discussions you guys had. And since I'm leaving the board and obviously the village hall planning task force, the charter for that task force over the 2 years was to obviously bring a plan to the board. And then eventually bring an idea of how we're gonna fund it, right? And we all have ideas on how we're gonna fund it. Last board meeting, we said, hey, why don't we take a look at it in parks? And I don't know if we were in our right to do that technically, because it was supposed to be let's come to the whole board together. The board looks at the plan and then takes it back to the village hall committee to look at. Because you guys then made some decisions, or at least some suggestions. I'll say suggestions, to be fair, about the stage. Might be a good one, but if I bring it back to the village hall committee, which I probably won't now because I don't think we're gonna have another meeting. I know in that committee, there's people who aren't gonna be happy with that decision. And they're gonna ask, well, why did this ever go to parks? This was our plan. Because the village didn't want this as part of the greater plan of, hey, what we're doing with the village administrative office, the parks, and everything else we're doing. The village hall is sort of excluded, left on its own. It wasn't part of the greater village plan.
Sure.
Probably should have been, quite frankly, I think it should have been, but that's fine. So I don't know where we go from here. Like, I don't know if we should, does it come back to village?
Well, we said
Technically, where
that
should it go?
the minutes reflected in our conversation is because of the new floodplain maps.
Yep.
And until we get that survey done or whatever, everything's just kind of put on hold until we know what we're dealing with there. But I think it was my recommendation at the board meeting that it go to Parks and Marina.
Yep.
Specifically because when Dave Leno and I received a different plan years ago, the bathrooms were much larger.
Yep.
And much more accommodating. And I really felt that the marina should be saying, this isn't gonna cut it,
Yep.
you know, from their perspective. If they were, if they're funding those bathrooms or whatever. So I don't know if they have discussed that yet or anything. I had a meeting with Dave last week, and with Fitzgerald to go over the current designs and all the changes of the marina building. He invited me to that as plan commission chair. So that's when I showed him the old plans for the village hall and how many bathrooms there were versus the kind of 2 that were there now. So it refreshed his memory also. I think but it's kind of nowhere until we get that.
Okay. As long as there's a
And I
process. everybody-
understand
yeah,
your point.
Yeah, and I don't have any like reason that I want to keep my arms around it and have ownership of it. I think it's better to have more opinions, for sure. I just don't know if we follow the process right with that charter, because the charter is very specific.
That
And
they
I just didn't
report to
wanna-
the board.
It's kind of one of those, yeah, where it's a point of order kind of an issue. Did we screw up sending it to you guys to make changes? But really you didn't make changes, to make suggestions that we should then talk about where, at the board or village hall committee when that meets again.
So what we're gonna do is we approve that task order for the floodplain
Yep,
information,
yep.
and after we have that, I'll meet with Henry and I would
Okay.
say, how does this impact our plan?
That's fine, that's fine.
And then we'll go back to the village hall.
Yeah,
task
and the
order.
floodplain, the thing I was thinking about, that, I mean, that building's, how long, when it was built? What is it?
1947?
Yeah, so, we thought with the, improved, improved sump up and that we can't really say, well, we got ahead of it because the water's down right now.
Yeah.
All right, and we won't know unless the water comes back up, but it's gonna be, I think it's gonna be reflected that it's certainly the basement is in the floodplain.
Well, and that's.
I don't think there's any question. We did, because we did have a survey showing that.
Yeah, so we have to determine the elevation of the ground where the addition is gonna go.
Yeah.
To make sure that doesn't get
Yeah.
water. 'Cause we have to make sure the first floor is up high enough.
Understood, but if it's bathroom, then we save on cleaning, because, I mean, let Mother Nature do her job. All right,
Did
so
you have
anyway, I
any
just want to be,
comments about?
no,
parks?
I don't know, I honestly, I could go either way on the stage. If the stage made it a nice, by being on the stage and have that being a terrace inside the building that you can just go right out to the outdoor patio, that's very nice. If to get to the outdoor patio, you don't have to climb stairs to get up there or go up a ramp. Either way, I mean, I'm not gonna lose any sleep over it either way.
You're not digging in your heels one way or another.
No, there was enough people though that liked the stage because they thought, well, there could still be performances on the stage. I know Patrice was one. She mentioned she was in favor of the stage staying because it had some historical context. So there's still some folks I think that might want to talk through that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So
And we didn't have the restroom plan going back to Marina to see, is this what we want? The original one, but we had to cancel the meeting, so when we can meet again. we'll
Yeah.
bring it.
So Patrice or Sarah, do you have any comments on, the parks maintenance building, on, the siting of it, on the map, how, the size of it, any feedback that I can take back to, the committee?
I mean, I really like hearing that it was so successful, Denise, so that gives me a lot of confidence that we've hired the right crew. I honestly will leave, like, I have no strong opinion. I think it looks great from the image. It's hard for me to conceptualize. But I think it makes sense. So no, sorry, no real disagreement or anything, no real value to add. I think it seems okay.
I just want as much input as possible.
Yeah, Denise, liked your comments as well. I'm glad we have the right firm and everything working on this. I'm glad this is going forward. It's time. And looks all good to me.
Thank you.
Personnel committee,
Yeah, we met last week to discuss the organization going forward with Dan's departure. And we have had Eric and Megan in interim roles. We were discussing whether the public works director would be something, a position we would want to hire in the future or not. Right now, the decision was to have Eric take on parks and facilities and Megan take on as plant supervisor, again, in interim roles to see if going forward, that's the way the village wants to go. And we kind of left, I think, it was a long discussion, but we kind of left it there at this point.
But it says in the minutes that staff does not want to replace the DPW.
Well,
That was
staff
really-
doesn't at this point. But there were some of us, I made the
committee
comment.
hasn't made a determination.
No,
at this point.
Correct, we had a meeting. One of the comments I made was, I don't know if it makes sense not to have we shouldn't probably reduce staff at the time where the village is going to go through this expansion.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean we have to have that particular role. It could mean we bring in a couple more people in different roles, in different managerial positions, whatever that means, but I think that's gonna have to be discussed by the staff and the board going forward. But for right now, they felt like Eric and Megan would be able to handle the tasks in front of them, and then it'll be revisited as they go forward. So
Why?
Why does staff feel that way?
Because
3-minute answer.
it's not a 3-minute answer.
Eric and Megan are doing a good job. We're gonna see how it goes in the interim and reevaluate at the end of the interim.
I guess my takeaway from that wasn't even necessarily for the interim. I think that we have a new personnel committee inevitably coming up. And I think that my understanding from that meeting is we'd be meeting after that to start the discussion, because really what it comes down to is the village is growing, whether we like it or not, it's going to happen. And I really I'm not convinced we don't need that DPW. I could be convinced otherwise. But we needed to acknowledge that Eric and Megan were stepping up and they were filling a role. So that's why I had suggested we make an interim to acknowledge that, to compensate them, because they're gonna have to do more work.
Right.
And I also made sure to individually tell them, said, us not saying that we want to make this permanent isn't a lack of confidence in you. It's looking at the organization big picture. So
Sure.
don't take, I said, I could understand how you might take offense to that. Please don't take it that way. That's not what we're looking at. This village is growing. We just need to make sure we're making the best big picture decision.
Thank you.
Planning Commission?
Does anybody have any questions on the minutes?
SBA.
We had a meeting this morning. I don't know. I don't know. I'm trying to think timing when all this happened. You all know Louise was obviously retiring, and her last meeting was today. Ellie has accepted the position to be the SBAA community coordinator. It's just Ellie is replacing Louise. Congratulations. And then she, as of yesterday, had an acceptance from a local young woman who is going to take on Ellie's role as marketing and events coordinator. And she has, ironically, now we talked about the website, she has experience working and helping at least firms around Chicago rebrand and do that's the new person. So she has some experience, it looks like, in some of these things we're talking about. So hey, that's good. And there's an Easter egg hunt coming up next Saturday. So, and I know that the Easter Bunny's going to be.
Do we know, is it public who that person is that to accept the role?
Oh, I thought you meant who the Easter Bunny was going to be.
No, that's clearly secret information, Don. I'm not gonna ask you that.
The person, it was, where's that?
Ellen's dropped off the meeting.
Yeah, I don't know if it could be public or
Okay.
not, quite frankly, but
I'll ask them. I'll ask her.
I don't know that.
Tourism Zone Commissioner.
So, we had our executive session with nothing to report.
Utilities?
Unfortunately, our meeting was canceled because only one member could show up.
I understand that I'm gonna say this and this, the people that this may be aimed at is that I'm not here, but it is really important that us as board members respect staff's time. And if we can't make it to meetings, we let staff know ahead of time, because I think that was canceled the day before.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is what my ask is. is that, and I realize that, we'll have a new board here shortly, but I really want to emphasize that if you are on a committee, those committees usually meet once a month, always at the same time. There are some variations, things do get jostled around, but I would ask every board member to fill out their entire calendar for the entire year. So you know, come September, you know, when the utilities meeting is. And so if something comes up in August and now all of a sudden you have to do something on that day, there is plenty of time that people fill out their annual calendars, because I'll just leave it at that. So, because everything is set, and I understand we add new meetings all the time, there may be new committees, things may get canceled, you need to reschedule, but if everybody fills out an annual calendar, it's right there in black and white. I don't care what kind of calendar you have.
Mhm.
Because I was furious with, the items that we were supposed to be addressing were highly important.
Mhm. I guess there's, sometimes you cannot avoid not being at a meeting, but there's no reason you can't get notice. Ample notice. Okay, village hall. You guys have a minute?
No, I mean, literally we presented that plan and then, I think nothing else to do right now.
Okay.
Kind of sit and wait a little bit.
I'll make a motion that we accept the committee reports. Motion by Bell,
Second.
second by Tom.
Nate,
Yes,
can I just clarify? I know, for the history report. Just a second, I'm having trouble with my computer. What it said is, we are acquiring a short-term rental property owner information for the purpose of potential donor support. And that's what was reported at the history meeting.
I don't know
We-
what that means, but we'll just wait
Yeah.
to.
And I'm not really sure either, Denise.
No.
And you all look so lost and, you know, floundering with those words. And I'm like, that didn't come out very well.
We'll wait till next month.
Yeah, we'll stay tuned.
Figure that one out, yeah.
okay. So that was a motion by me, second by Don. All those in favor?
I,
Motion carried. Matter to be placed on the future agenda, referred to committee, official or employee. Something that I want to put out there for planning commission. I know planning commission's got a lot of things to do. This is something we've talked about in the past. We actually were on the precipice of doing it, and then we figured out we couldn't because there was not a way to get it done. And that's revisiting ADUs. Auxiliary dwelling units. If we can do that with deed restriction, that's something that we can do. I know we have a housing committee to discuss it, but that's something that it's a no-brainer if we can eliminate the STR in my
I
opinion.
need upon the meeting's next week, Nate.
I understand.
Can we not have it on that agenda?
I'm not saying next,
Okay. Thank you.
So we made a list of things that I have to get to, that was one of them. So it'll come back, I'm just.
Okay. no, I'm not saying that. I just want to make sure that I
It's on the
haven't said
forefront.
that in a while, and
Okay.
I'm saying it in the meeting, so.
Okay. Duly noted.
And other things
Mhm.
to increase the opportunity for housing. Right,
Reduce the impacts. Okay, that's all I have. Anybody else?
No, sir.
Guess I will just say it's been a pleasure serving with Don and Sarah.
It's been a pleasure serving with you and the rest. It's been
You're
exciting.
still here next month, aren't you?
Yeah.
Not technically, because there's an election and then the board meets and the first thing we do is, in the board meeting is,
Oh, so it's
set the
after, because
new-
I know it's after the election, I just couldn't remember.
yeah, you see the new person at the
Oh, the
beginning,
next
so.
meeting.
And ironically, I'm out in Philadelphia that night anyway, so I told Nate just to save my plaque for me, you know.
I'll dump it off on top of Mount Cox.
Appreciate that. Appreciate that. I'll put it next to my school book.
I like discussing with you,
It was fun.
Don.
It was fun. Well, I hope to be on committees. I mean, I'm just moving to Liberty Grove, crying out loud. I think you guys have a lot of Liberty Grove people around, right?
Stakeholders.
Depends on who.
Stakeholder now.
I'm literally across the street on Hill Road, the other side.
Is it really that close?
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
So. Oh, well.
Same
Thanks
to
for
you,
all your
Sarah.
help, Don and Sarah.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
thank you,
Been a
thank you.
pleasure.
Don't let him take that stage, Patrice. Don't let him take the stage.
I know, save the stage. There's always room on the village hall committee, Don.
Yeah, I know. I might be on it.
Okay, I think motion to adjourn would be in order.
I would like to make that motion.
I'll
Motion by
second.
Knox.
I'll
by
second.
All those in favor?
Hi.
Aye.
I.
Aye.
So
Your
with that
last motion was
speech,
pudding,
we never
Don.
had her
It was.
talk that